Good evening, and welcome to the May 24th, 2022 Guilderland School Board of Education meeting. Would you all please silence your cell phones and stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start today, we're just going to take a moment of silence to acknowledge the school shooting that happened this afternoon. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll start with public comment, and we have a few people signed up for public comment in person, and we have a couple of email public comments. So we'll start with Amanda Beadle.
Hello, Board. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak before you tonight. I come before you on behalf of a not-for-profit I started called the Caring Closet Guilderland. We are IRC-recognized 501c3, and our mission is to provide Guilderland Central School District youth and their families with personal hygiene items and other hygiene-type necessities. The Caring Closet, hopefully after tonight, the Caring Totes, will supply hygiene needs and hopefully confidence. The idea is a lot of love and caring is going into these closets, totes, and a lot of smiles and happiness is going to come out. The Caring Closet is for anyone that needs something, to have a place to go with no shame or worries of having to pay for anything. Families are in need. If they are, we hope that they will reach out to the school and ask for something to be sent home. We want to empower each school to have the means to assist students who may need these items. We want students and families to know that they have a place within the school to go to for assistance completely anonymous to us. No family identifying information is needed. We only ask that the number of individuals we assist is tracked for our not-for-profit reporting purposes. A Caring Closet is now established in the West Office of the Guilderland High School. Our mission has been from the start to assist the entire school district once we had enough backing. Well, with tremendous community support for our IRC-recognized 501c3, the hope is that we will be permitted tonight to provide Caring Totes for the middle school and each of the district's 5 elementary schools. We recognize that space is a factor, so totes make it easier. A simple inventory list will allow a school contact to keep track of what goes out and what we need to replace monthly. I've spoken with a few principals at the schools, and they are very excited for this prospect. Donation boxes are being located throughout town, including the Guilderland YMCA, Guilderland Town Hall, the Altamont Library, Legacy Fitness on Carmen Road, Ink and Ivy House of Beauty, and many more to come. Items that can be donated to the Caring Closet include body wash and bar soap, shampoo and conditioner, toothpaste, toothbrushes, dental floss, deodorant, feminine hygiene pads, tampons, body splashes, facial cleanser, and lotion. We do not accept razors or alcohol-containing mouthwash for liability reasons and protection of the students. We are currently now accepting monetary donations to purchase what is not needed. We have been in contact with the DEI director, and he has given us some suggestions for students who have other hygiene needs than what we will be able to provide through donations. If there's a specific need for a child, if they have a skin condition or a certain hygiene item that they need, we can be contacted and the student can let us know, or the family let us know what they need. We will purchase that for them separately. We want each student to come into school knowing that they can have the confidence of personal hygiene, and sadly, it's of great need. I have been all over this town for the past few weeks doing different donation events, and it's shocking that people don't understand that this is a need that is prevalent in Guilderland. So I took on a mission, and I haven't stopped, and I won't stop, because Guilderland's important to me, and all schools, from kindergarten right up to seniors in high schools, deserve this opportunity. So I'm hoping the board will approve, like they did back in February, unanimously, to allow these totes to come in this school. It's a simple process. We don't want to burden the schools laden down with everything. We will give the school district a receipt for all donations, so they have it for their reporting purposes. We're taking the legwork out of everything. So thank you for your time tonight. If you have any questions, you can reach me at thecaringclosetguilderland@gmail.com. or check out our Facebook page, like and share. It is effective. I put out a request for 6 totes. Within 15 minutes, the community responded about all 6. So, community wants to help us. Just let me help you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Beadle. Next, we have Melanie Shatinsky.
Good evening. My name is Melanie Shatinsky, and I currently have 3 children in grades 5th, 8th, and 10th in the Guilderland School District. I'm here tonight to inform the board, Dr. Wiles, and the community of an issue that has been going on between Guilderland High School, the instructional administrator for music, Robert Winans, and Altamont Elementary. I'm not sure if you are aware, but each year, the 5th grade students of Altamont Elementary perform a musical. It's usually a junior version of a popular musical and is quite the undertaking. All of the expenses, like the show rights, the director's stipends, the sound system rentals, the costumes, the sets, etc., are raised by the 5th grade families, and all rehearsals are after the school day. This year, the musical is Into the Woods and is set to be performed June 10th, 11th, and 12th. This is an amazing experience for the students. All of the 5th graders are encouraged to participate, whether it be in the cast or the crew. The entire grade works together as a team to create this production, and they are filled with such pride at the end. The students are also able to experience many aspects of the arts that there just isn't enough time for during the elementary school day. The musical is usually performed in the Altamont Cafetorium. We recently learned, however, that because of capacity restrictions this year, each student would only be allowed to have 3 tickets for each performance. This potentially forces families to make challenging decisions about extended family and who gets to attend each performance. An alternative plan was brought up that maybe the show could be performed at the Guilderland High School auditorium. I reached out to the principal and Mr. Winans and discovered that the auditorium would be available that weekend for performances. After much back and forth about many issues on the high school side that we worked to find a solution to, we received this in an email last Friday afternoon from Mr. Winans. And I quote, "We know you are in a tough spot right now, so after going through the calendar, speaking with the music department, and checking on some potential conflicts, I think we can make this work," unquote. However, Monday morning out of the blue, we received an email that they changed their mind. This was not a done deal, and more planning needed to be done. They would like to set up a meeting to discuss the planning issues. No real clear indication was given about what changed, why they are no longer sure they can make this work. And to make matters worse, the only time they could meet was this Thursday, at 3 p.m. That would only be 8 school days out from our show. I've interacted with many administrators and staff at Guilderland over the years, and I have to say I have never felt the lack of community and the lack of respect that I have felt during this process. Over and over again, different hurdles were presented. As we found solutions to each, new ones were found. There was no feeling of how can we make this work. It was more of a feeling of Altamont Elementary versus Guilderland High School. I was under the impression that the music administrator was tasked with the responsibility to serve all music students, not just the high school. However, I do not feel that Mr. Winans is looking out for our 5th grade music students. He had the opportunity to be a bridge between the 2 schools, but that was not the route that was taken. I have heard it said that Guilderland, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shatinsky. Next, we have Kaylee Greene.
Good evening. My name is Kaylee Greene, and I'm a sophomore, and today's my birthday, but I decided to come and talk about school start times anyways. The papers that you're getting are a works cited of the information that I'm going to be talking about. An average teen should sleep for 9 hours and 15 minutes each night, but most teens don't get the full 9 hours of sleep. In the United States, in fact, only 20% of teens get the recommended amount of sleep. The CDC website states that early start times are a main reason of this. Waking up early for school often obstructs teens from getting the healthy amount of sleep needed. Some say, including some of you, that teens should just go to bed earlier, but biology works against adolescent sleep. Circadian rhythms are the 24-hour cycles that are a part of our body's internal clock that changes throughout our lives. Your circadian rhythm works in combination with your environment as well as the chemicals in your brain that are released to help you fall asleep. For teenagers, this shifts later into the night, making it hard for most teens to fall asleep much before 11 p.m. The U.S. average school start time is between 7:30 to 8:40. Going to bed at around 11 or later only permits teens 7 hours or less of sleep, keeping in mind that most teens wake up an hour or 2 earlier than school starts to catch the bus. I've heard the argument that no other schools have the start times that early, However, this isn't the case. The following schools in the area have a start time of 8 a.m. or later: Boston Spa, Niskayuna, Saratoga, Schenectady, Troy, and more. Right on the CDC website, it says that the recommended that middle schools and high schools start at 8:30 or later to give students the opportunity to get the amount of sleep that they need. Teens that don't get enough sleep are more likely to be overweight, not engage in physical activity, suffer from depression or symptoms of depression, engage in risky behaviors, as well as a decreased performance in school. Here are a couple things to take into consideration. Who are the schools for? Are they for teachers or for students? 2, the surveys that you took showed that there were no change in the amount of sleep that students get. However, there was no direction on if we were answering questions about last school year with a 10 a.m. start time or the 7:05 drop-off time from years previous. Also, you had freshmen and sophomores like myself answering these questions who have never even experienced the earlier start times. I've heard a lot about athletics and these students missing times to travel to games. Are we at school mainly for academics or athletics? It's been proven that early start times result in worse academic performance. So making the choice to keep a later start time should be a no-brainer. We followed the science for masks. We followed the science and recommended everyone to get vaccinated. How come the science is being pushed away when it comes to the amount of sleep that teens need and the impact that sleep deprivation has on school performance? If you approve an earlier start time tonight, you're approving to students such as myself and the community at large that you don't care about academics, the well-being of students, or science. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Green. We also have 2 public comments that were emailed to us, so I'm going to read them. The first one is from Jessica Carney. She writes, "First, I would like to thank all of the people involved in researching and testing new start times, as well as the board for considering my concerns and solution. We all have our students' best interests in mind. As a mom of elementary kids and a TA in the middle school, I am concerned with all 3 of the proposed new start times for this coming school year. First of all, none of the elementary start times are conducive for elementary kids, staff, or parents. Either they're losing 15 minutes of instructional time, which will in turn will start cutting into any free time and or recess that young learners need and deserve, or the proposed start time is way too early or way too late. The kids would be getting on the bus in darkness with the earliest time, which is completely unsafe for K-5 children, and parents would need extra care after school care. We are all feeling prices continuing to rise. Then doubling the need for both early and after care for working parents is a huge problem with the latest elementary start time. This would be extremely inconvenient for all working parents and would create staffing issues, which in turn would require more money from parents, community members, and the district. I don't think any of the time slots that were presented for elementary schools are acceptable. For the option that the kids would lose 15 minutes of instructional time, it should just be tweaked a bit to the pre-2020 school times when schools never missed anything. The proposed middle school times don't seem to fix anything either. There's been huge problems this year with busing. FMS is the first start time option would be a logistical busing nightmare. Kids have been missing instructional time, and this district has to pay staff more while making them stay even later in the early evening. No school should be instructional much after 3:45 p.m. because it cuts into sports, after-school activities, jobs, family time, and overall mental health time. The proposed times don't fix the ending time of FMS being so extremely late. Why not change back to the 2020 and prior times? I understand that some studies say later start times are beneficial. The data shown at the previous board meeting doesn't indicate much of a change in actual sleep habits from our previous start times. Kids will stay up later or just as late, especially when they have to get up later. There is no data saying that kids will actually go to bed earlier. We have tried the change and it isn't working. We know that, but still the 3 options presented don't seem to work either. Attempting to solve a problem that some studies have said is a reality for our older learners is causing an extreme number of other options within all areas of our district. We tried to make it work, but it won't work for our sprawling district. I think we should go back to what we had in 2020 and prior. Thanks for your time. All the best, Jessica Carney. And the second public comment is from Connor Webb. He writes, "My name is Connor Webb. I am a sophomore at GHS. I am writing to you on behalf of March for Our Lives, a student-led gun violence prevention organization that we created in Guilderland last year. We attended the Board of Education meeting in February to advocate for secure firearm storage notification resolution as approved in several school districts throughout the country in conjunction with Every Town for Gun Safety. The resolution will be presented today, and you will soon be voting on it. Evidence strongly suggests that secure firearm storage is an essential component to keep schools and communities safe. Communicating the responsibilities of parents in their role in securing firearms, as noted in the resolution, is a logical and common sense approach to mitigate the risk of gun violence. On behalf of students and teachers who work with March for Our Lives, we strongly encourage you to support this resolution in protecting our school and local community. Thank you. Linda, are there any more public comments? Okay, thank you. So, in regards to the carrying closet, I don't know if it was on the agenda tonight, but I think that's something we can follow up on. Is it on the agenda? Okay, so we can follow up on that. And then, if I understand correctly, the 5th grade musical piece is all, I don't know if Dr. Wells, you want to speak to that, is resolved?
Yes, we were able to pull together Mr. Piscatelli, Mr. Winans, Mr. Brabant, and myself, and Mr. Maycock at 3 o'clock today. And I know some additional conversations happened since that time, but I think we have a plan where the 5th grade can in fact come up here to do the musical. I think there are some sound choices that need to be made to work with our current setup, but otherwise we have that resolved.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the school start times we're going to discuss, and then also the resolution about gun safety will also be discussed. So we can move on to our first item. I think we're going to be moving around some of the items and talking about school start time first. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Wiles.
Okay, I'm going to do a little refresher, and I've got a little extra data, but I'll talk fast. So this is a PowerPoint updated from our last board meeting. I'm going to skip some of the slides, but I thought they might be useful for us in terms of the conversation. But I do want to start reminding everybody of the challenges of this work, because there are some things we do not have the capacity to change, and that's our geography, where our buildings are located across our district, our traffic patterns, and the number of drivers that we have available to us. If we had an unlimited number of drivers and an unlimited number of buses, we could do all kinds of things that would close the gap between the times we need between runs, but we're not changing any of those things anytime soon. So all of the options we've been talking about have trade-offs, and we've talked about pros and cons. Board members, you have in front of you the options plus the pros and cons, and then everything requires some work at the building level once a decision is made. This is just a quick reminder. This is what we are currently doing this year. It came with lots of challenges because we were too optimistic about how long it takes to get between the runs. And so we had late buses at the high school, late buses at the middle school, both in the morning and in the afternoon. We need to fix that. So I'm going to skip all the survey responses that I shared last time in the interest of time, and just do a little refresher of the 3 new options, and then talk about something that's come up a number of times in recent conversations, and that is, well, what if we went back to pre-pandemic? But here's the first option. This is the one that is closest to what we're currently doing in the 21-22 school year. This is the option that has the elementary schools going first, but starting 15 minutes earlier than they currently do. That gives them a 6-hour day. It keeps the high school essentially where it is, with a little bit earlier start, and the high school with a 9:10 start, and it recognizes the 3:45 dismissal time, which is in fact the time we can actually get buses to the middle school as promised. Pros and cons, so it is consistent with research for adolescents. It solves some unsupervised time at the beginning and the end of day at GHS. Instructional days remain intact, and it actually adds 5 minutes to the elementary schools. But there are some downsides. You know, we have buses running to our Career and Technical Education Center at BOCES and to Mahonison. They don't align well, so it requires extra runs. Our elementary students in this model would get picked up very early. The end of the day for middle school would be very late. We would need supervision before the start of school at Farnsworth. And there are a significant number of students who miss time at the end of the day for athletics. And I have a couple new slides here to just give you a feel for that. Dave Austin had gathered information about minutes of lost instruction at the end of the day, and Mike Piscatelli helped coordinate this so you could get a feel for it. So the bars here represent the different teams. This is fall sports. The white numbers in the blue bars are the numbers of students on each of those teams. And then the number at the top is the number of instructional minutes lost. So it varies across the teams. So you get a feel for it, that it is a significant number of minutes when this high school day ends later. Here's winter. Fewer sports, fewer numbers, so it's a little bit less of an issue. And then there's spring, where it's quite a bit of an issue. So I wanted to add that because it comes up as a con in several of our data sets. And it, in fact, nope, I'm going to take that back. So here's the high school first model. This is the model that moves the drop-off time to 7:15 at the high school and a 7:30 start. And it also builds in something called the Dutch connection at the end of the day for the high school. This would be a time for students to see teachers for extra help, participate in their extracurricular activities and clubs. Elementary school would go next, and the huge drawback here that we've heard from many is that it would need to shorten the instructional day at our elementary buildings by 15 minutes. The elementary principals did a nice job of gathering some data to show, and I think I've shared with the board, that we already have the shortest instructional day among suburban council school districts. And then you can see the time for the middle school starts a little before 9, ends at 3:40 with a late bus at 4:10. I've hinted at some of these pluses and minuses. On the pro side, aligning the high school buses earlier allows us to consolidate some of our runs to other sites, and it will save a significant amount of money. It's an earlier start and end time for Farnsworth. There's less instructional time lost at the end of the day for athletes. It's a later, more civilized pickup time for our elementary students because it will be dark. And it does include that extra SEL, DEI, Dutchman connection piece at the end of the day. However, it's not consistent with the sleep research for our Guilderland High School students, and then it does shorten the elementary day by 15 minutes. And then the last new option was to put the middle school first, and that would have the drop time at 7:15 and a start time at 7:25. You can see the end times there just before 2 o'clock in a 6-hour and 29-minute day. The high school would start at 8:33 with an 8:18 drop time. You can see we would end the day at 3:58. There would be no late bus, but it would include that Dutch connection. Buses would roll at 4 o'clock. And the elementary would start latest, drop at 9, start at 9:10, end at 3:10, depart at 3:18, and a late bus at 3:55. The pros of this, it's consistent with high school, with the research for high school students. It builds in the extra time. It eliminates the need for supervision before school at FMS and GHS, although it creates it at the other end of the day for Farnsworth. There's less after-school care required at the elementary level and less instructional time lost for Farnsworth athletes. But on the other side, it's not consistent at all with sleep research for our middle school students. It actually increases the gap in time between our morning runs and the buses that need to get our CTE students to their location. It adds 13 more minutes of missed instructional time at the end of the day for GHS athletes. So on top of the data I showed you earlier on, it adds 13 minutes across the board for all of those. And it increases the need for elementary care, before school care at the elementary level. And then I asked INHO to do a little study for me to see if we could in fact get our longest high school buses to the high school on time if they went after the elementary school. God bless him, he had 5 runs, do the whole thing, and did the math, and he has some concerns that there could be 2 Altamont runs that could not make it to the high school on time each day. So those are the 3 options. As promised, there is good and bad in all of them. There was a lot of interest in going back to what our times were in the pre-pandemic high school, so I've included it here as a refresher. In that model, our buses dropped at the high school at 7:05 for a 7:30 start, and the day ended at 2:23 with a 2:45 depart. Jumping ahead a little bit here, but this is the big downside here, is that 25-minute gap between drop time at both ends of the school day, and that drop time has to be that early in order for the buses to do the elementary runs so their school day can start at 7:50. That's the reason for that. The day ended at the elementary at 1:50, and the buses rolled at 2:05. There was a 3 o'clock late bus. And then at the middle school, 8:35 drop, 8:45 start. End of the day was 3:25. Buses rolled at 3:35, and the late bus was 4:05. There are pros and cons to this. This would preserve the savings that we talked about around CTE. Less instructional time is lost for our Guilderland High School athletes. No loss of instructional time at the elementary schools, and FMS starts and ends earlier than the current schedule. 2, downside, it is not consistent with the sleep research for our high school students. And there are large gaps in time between the drop-off and the start of the day and the end of the day and departure. And this does create some safety issues because there's just, in the way that happened pre-pandemic, there was just not enough supervision at the high school during those times. I have a little asterisk there, and this is kind of a late-breaking discussion of would we go back, so we're brainstorming some ways to ease that if possible. All right, so I talked really fast. So I will stop and let you folks sort of deliberate.
So we can start. I just wanted to share a couple thoughts. So I think that, in my opinion, option 4, the pre-pandemic time, is the only way that we can not impact a large group of kids in a negative way. I think the 3 options, in every option, there's some large group of kids that are impacted negatively, and I think although none of them are perfect, the 4th option, this pre-pandemic time of figuring out what to do with the extra minutes of time where kids are unmonitored, I think that's something that's manageable. That's something that we can work on, and I feel like we owe it to the kids to try and fix that. I just wanted to also add, I know this all started because of the late start time, and obviously I can't debate or argue that research, but if you choose to have a late start time, you're going to impact sports and jobs. You can't have both. Either you have the late start time and everything is shifted later, or you continue to stay early and you're not impacted with jobs and sports. And we know from hearing from many people that that is also really important. And I just wanted to add, before this 4th option, I was really choosing option 2, but knowing that it's 15 minutes loss of instructional time, from my impression, and I'm not the expert, I don't work here, but my impression that I've gotten from everybody is that is just an absolute no. So to me, I don't know why this was even an option, because I just thought that if options were presented to us, then they all should be somewhat manageable. But the impression that I got with the 2nd option is that you just can't do that. So that's what I have to say. Monica, sorry, I know you have to leave, so go ahead.
I just want to confirm you're going to hold the vote, though, right, till I come back? Or
Yeah,
no?
so
Okay.
we can talk, and then when you come back, we can vote.
I'm sorry, and I'll just say one thing real quick. I agree with you. I think it's an understatement to say that I'm disappointed with the options. I think we're either blatantly disregarding the science or like pitting our groups of students against one another. So I'm like a little bit resentful of that. There is no perfect solution is what I wanted to say. Thanks. I'll be back.
Rebecca?
I just had a few, if you don't mind, Dr. Wiles, answering for the community. Like, I think you sort of got into this, but that we can't all start between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. And the reason for that is because of minimum durations of time between runs.
Yes.
Could you speak to that a little bit?
So I guess I want to back up and say, a lot of people spent a ton of time on this project. It's been 4 years of a lot of research. The student who spoke today really eloquently captured what our subcommittee who did research on this. So I just can't underscore enough that people really worked hard on this over the course of years and looked at, I don't know how many variations on a theme to try to make this work. But Dr. Butterworth's comment about the time between runs is huge. And so we've worked with our transportation department, and given the number of buses and bus drivers we have, it just takes a minimum amount of time to drop off one level of students, get back out to the neighborhood, pick up the students, and get to the next building, drop off the students, and get back to the next building. And depending on who goes first and when it is during the traffic patterns on Western Ave and 146, it just takes a lot of time. And so last year, about this time, when we tweaked the model that we had, this would work to make it shorter, what we discovered was we can't tweak that to say we'd like it to be shorter and therefore it will be shorter. We just can't change that. And it's not a disregard for science. It's not a disregard for anything. It's just what we've been dealt with here in Guilderland. If we were in another community where all of our buildings were on a single campus, the metric would be different. But we have what we have, and there's just no way we're going to change where our buildings are, where our bus garage is, how the traffic flows on Western Ave, how it gets, bottled up on 155 and on 146. And we're the cause of most of that. Because if you drive down Western Ave on a day when there's no school, on a work day, it's really a very different experience. Is that what you wanted me to get, Rebecca?
Very much so.
Okay.
Another question.
Sure.
Too, and then a comment. My second question is the elementary schools started pretty early this year.
Yes.
What percentage or what effect did that have on attendance first thing in the morning?
I think our principals would say that, and I think it varied by building some, but we had some pretty significant tardies in some of our buildings. And some of it was connected to traffic. I don't pick on you, Dr. Lockwood, but traffic at GES is brutal because the driveway is so short. We also had far more students driving their children to school this year than we have in previous years because of the aftermath of the pandemic. So if you have all the buses and all the cars wanting to get into a very small place all at the same time, that's the definition of traffic jam. And that's what we have. And frankly, we're probably going to have that regardless of what time we pick, because you have everybody coming to the same place at the same time.
Thank you. And then I just had a comment. So I agree with Dr. Rivera. I have been a huge proponent of the late school start time, and I really was impressed with the student that spoke tonight. She was very eloquent, and she really detailed the science behind it well. But I think there's just certain immutable conditions that we can't ignore. And our job as board members is to listen to our community. And certainly the elementary and the middle school principals have been unified that all of the options have some fatal flaws. So in my opinion, the first option, the elementary first, yes, has a fatal flaw of being super early in the morning for small children waiting out by the bus. And it also has FMS ending even later than it did this year, where there were significant problems with the delayed exit this year. I think the fatal flaw for option 2 is that cut instructional time. I mean, I just don't think that's a sustainable option. So unfortunately, even though I do think there is compelling science about high school students and adequate sleep, I really don't see any other compromise position except going back to where we were pre-pandemic.
Gloria?
I guess I'll echo my two colleagues here. We began this whole thing with the intent of solving a problem regarding the high school sleep schedule. Unfortunately, in trying to solve that, we might have honed in on solving that, but then we've created all these other issues for the other levels. And so when you look at that piece, I guess I came, as Rebecca said, to the point where, yes, I'd like to have this, but we can't have that. So I'm in favor of the pre-pandemic. I really, high in my mind was maintaining at least a minimum 6-hour day for the elementary school. I think any less than that is disservice, and we're here to teach our kids, so that was a big priority for me. And so I would favor going back to the pre-pandemic, and wish it was different. We just don't have the geography or the resources to do anything other.
Judy, and then Barb. Did you have your hand raised, Barb? Okay, Judy and then Barb.
Okay. My biggest concern, excuse me, with the elementary first, which seems to have a lot going for it, is that if the drop time is 7:15, that means that kids would be picked up probably at 6:45 to 7, and it's dark out, and there's even talk of year-round daylight savings time, which would put it even darker in the morning, and that's, no matter what else, that is so totally unacceptable to have those kids out, especially the elementary kids out that early in the morning. And then you can't miss more elementary time. I agree with everybody on that. The middle school first puts, again, a lot of problems on the elementary parents especially. And some of it looks good, but I think the losses are too great. I don't like any of them, and I know the severity of the problem for high schools is something that we were really trying to get around. But of all of them, I guess I think that's the best choice of options, which all have their drawbacks, obviously.
Barb?
I guess I'm an outlier here because I think we have potentially solved many of the problems for students with the elementary first. We're talking a 15-minute difference in the elementary starting time and a 15-minute difference in the middle school end time. But it solves so many problems. I mean, this young lady that came before us certainly had a grasp of the scientific literature, and she made a mention that, you know, the CDC asks school districts not to stop before 8:30. And she mentioned that, you know, we follow the CDC for all their other things, vaccinations, masking, and inoculations and everything, but we don't want to follow it here. We have fine-tuned our current model with that 15-minute difference. And I guess I would just recollect that as parents have petitioned us to change bus routes for safety reasons or whatever, we have always said that the Commissioner of Education says that you are responsible for getting your child safely to the bus. And so, granted, it will be dark some of the months of the year if we were to take this, but again, if we follow the recommendations of the Commissioner, that would be the case. Another argument, again, not for student benefit, but for staff benefit, was that the earlier start time would make it difficult for some staff members to find daycare. But again, I think, you know, what do all the other people in the world, doctors, nurses, convenience store operators, police, fire, that work the early shifts, they have to find ways for their children to have daycare until the daycare is open. It sounds cruel, but you have a limited number of maybe staff people that are going to be affected, but on the other hand, you have so many benefits that all these kids, as they come up from elementary to middle to high school, would have in the way of learning time. The argument that the middle school kids, that we saw a slide there, lose some time for athletics if they come up to the high school That has happened for years. There hasn't been any change in that at all, as far as I know. I know when my kids and others, at the middle school played up at the high school level, they lost academic time as well, but I think most parents that have had kids do that said that it really structured their day so that when they got back, they really had to get to their homework and not, to the TV program. The other two things, as the committee has pointed out, just lose too much elementary teaching time, and we have the shortest day as it is. So, as I said, we lived with this year. There were definitely flaws that were worked out in some degree with the middle school by changing dismissal times and such as that. They did lose some extra bus runs at the end of the school day, for extracurriculars for kids. I think we only had one day a week when we did that. But on the whole, as I said, the trend is to recognize science. And the young lady pointed out a number of our fellow school districts that are on this 8:30 time schedule. And I don't know if she even mentioned Schenectady and Albany, but they too, have 8:30 start times. And Niskayuna, again, is a suburban district like ours. I don't know if they're going to think about going back or not, but I know my grandkids are there, and they have loved the earlier start times. One is a senior, and so she experienced both the early start time and then, the later start times. And as I said, the kids really, really appreciate it, and their teachers have told them, well, geez, you're awake at first period now. You never used to be awake. And so I guess I'll just make my pitch for that elementary first model and say that it benefits kids more so than any other plan. And again, we have attempted to tweak some of the problems. And as I said, if the community works together for the kids, that would be my first choice. Thanks.
Kim and then Nate.
Where to begin? First of all, I'm very thankful actually that the fourth option came back for pre-COVID. I know that we're talking about following the science, but realistically, it's not easy to find childcare. Like, as someone who wants to go back to work right now and who's had to look for childcare, it is next to impossible. There are people who can't afford it, who are currently staying home from their jobs trying to work out whether they can actually do it remotely because the childcare isn't there. So I just want to throw it out there that just kind of choosing option one just to say, well, what do other people do? They don't go to work. Or, there are huge subsidies right now coming from the government to help because childcare expenses are so expensive where you can actually find it. So I definitely don't want to disregard our parents and our teachers. It's not just our teachers having to come in early, it's parents as well. And going with the original start times, I know that goes against the science, and I know that the idea was to get the kids in later. But at the same time, we say that we're a district that's trying to get our kids college ready, and especially whatever students decide to do after their senior year, whether they go to work, whether they go to college, there are going to be times where they have to be up early and they have to be at a job at a certain time early in the morning or at an early morning class. And even though they're 18 years old, science isn't going to matter at that point. And I'm not trying to, as my son is looking at me, evil-eyeing me from the corner, I'm not trying to disregard the science, but realistically, going back to our original times gives, it's not making as many hits. I feel like we're giving so many huge sacrifices. And even for athletics, as a parent of an athlete right now, I don't like that he always has to miss so much school. And then he has to catch up. And a lot of the issue also with the high school and this is not me, this is just what I've been told by a lot of students, is a lot of it isn't necessarily the wake-up times or going to bed earlier. It's the mammoth amount of homework that they're getting that just seems to be repetitive instead of just seeing if they actually understand the content. that seems to be more of a problem that I've heard from students. But that's all I wanted to say about it.
Nate?
I mean, I think if the pre-pandemic option wasn't there, I'd actually agree with Barb. Choice one would have been mine for, quite frankly, the worst of all the evil, the least worst of all the evils of all of these choices. But, you know, I just want to respond. I don't think the idea, whatever school starts earlier, it's going to affect that staff regardless. I mean, it's not like just elementary school staff have young kids. I'm not going to guess here, but I think probably middle school staff, high school staff, a lot of staff are going to have young kids. They're going to be affected by an early start time or a late start time. So that, to me, it's a wash. Like all of these options, somebody's going to get hurt. I mean, whether it's our students or staff, but, you know, I think we got to look at what's the least worst option. For me, that is the pre-pandemic option, because it gives us, what for me was the defining, what it came down to all these choices, is the loss of curriculum time at the elementary school was an absolute unacceptable option to me. So option two was, although when I first heard it was my option, the more I thought about it, that's just not an option. And, you know, we saw the numbers for lost curriculum, lost educational time for students that are athletes, that's significant. And, you know, it's not like we're making a choice for athletics. Athletics are an important part of the school experience for a large number of students. And to discount that in the idea that we're making a choice for just students or athletes, I think discounts the fact that those students are athletes who are students first. And that was wordy, and I apologize. But my point is, the pre-pandemic option is the one that really does hurt the least and has the most positives in terms of curriculum time for all of our students, K through 12.
Kelly?
I think I'm last to go. I'm not going to sit here and echo all of the different things. Interestingly, although the slide that we saw for the elementary first and the loss of athletic time was, if I read it correctly, was severely disproportional to girls' sports. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, that is just something I saw, which was, I don't want them to lose the time, but it seemed like it was all girls that were super high, volleyball, soccer, but anyway, just something I noticed. I hadn't seen that slide before. I think we've all sat here and struggled with these for the past month to 5 years with that, and I'm going to have to echo that. As horrible as it is, and as I don't want to go back to it for the high school students, it's the only thing that seems to be able to work with the least pain from everybody else. So that's my input. Thanks.
I just want to acknowledge that everything that you said, Barbara, about the time and the science, I totally agree with. It's just that there's a cost of taking, there's a trade-off for all of these, right? And so the trade-off for the students, you know, the high school students going late are, so, to me, too many trade-offs. It would be different if we had one campus and then we could ideally pick what time to start for all the schools. Then, of course, why would we not go with the science? But I also want to say to not, you know, all of the work that's gone into this, I think the intent and the initial, because this started pre-COVID, all of that initiation to look into this, I don't think that's gone to waste. Like, I think there was a good, valid reason as to why people started looking into this, and I definitely think that all the people that have been involved have done so much more than, I mean, I don't know how many other times we could look at it. So I just think, I would love to have that, but the trade-off is not worth it to me. It's like my students I have at work. They like the convenience of online classes, but they like in-person classes. So it's like you can't have both. So if you have a late start time, you're going to miss sports and jobs. Nate and then Blanca?
I'm sorry. I mean, the one thing I just wanted to, one thing that, you know, and I know the student that spoke, and Barb mentioned it as well, mentioned a couple other districts, Albany, Schenectady, Niskayuna. I don't think it's stretching that those districts are geographically much different than Guilderland. And that, as Dr. Wiles pointed out, the geography is a massive issue here. When you're bringing kids from Altamont and you're bringing kids from Guilderland and Slingerlands and every other, you know, it's a massive geographic district. Schenectady, Albany, get a lot of kids that walk to school. Niskayuna, nice district, but it's small geographically. So you don't have to take long runs. And, you know, let's use this as a teaching experience. When you make a mistake, don't double down and make it worse. Admit you made a mistake, go back and fix it. And that's what I think we need to do here.
Blanca?
Yep. I think I must have missed what, Rebecca, your opinion? Did you give your opinion?
Everybody
Are
did.
you okay with the pre-pandemic? Because I know you're big into research, so.
I mean, I think what I tried to stress was that I agree with Barb completely. I agree with the student who was very articulate. I think if we could wave a magic wand, all of the schools would start between 8 and 8:30. That would be great. But we can't. We have to bring students, as to Nate's point, from Altamont to FMS and then back. And there are immutable conditions that we cannot fix. And given the fact that the other option one, has, in my opinion, a fatal flaw of that middle school starting later than it does this year, which was already disastrous, and the elementary school starting even earlier, which the feedback we've gotten has been negative, I would be in favor of pre-pandemic start time.
Okay, yeah, I have fallen into the same, that's what I support as well. I just wonder, though, if the administrators, one of you at least, could comment, because we didn't have that on the table last meeting, going back to the pre-COVID times. Mike, you know you're my favorite.
Not or anything.
I just want to know how they feel.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, my opinion really hasn't changed. I think that we need to go back to having 3 after-school activity periods for middle school students. The impact this year with them not able to access extracurricular, in my opinion, has had a negative impact on their school year. So this pre-pandemic high school first, while it might not be consistent with the research, and while my 10th grader is a little upset that this might be the decision that's coming, I think it's the best for the system because, as multiple board members have pointed out, there are some conditions and parameters that we can't change, being a very large geographical school district that has to transport kids from one end to the other. And while I also agree with the sleep research, there are some things that are just not working this school year currently with what we have to play with. We know that this system can work because it worked pre-pandemic. And I'd go back to another point that was made throughout the course of 12, 13 years in our system. All families and all students will experience every single level. So you'll be able to have an opportunity to live all 3 start times and end times.
Before Ellen jumps in, I just want to remind everybody that all of these models had at least 3 days of after-school late buses. That was just a function of this year only, so.
And I'll just add, I agree with everything that Mike said, and on behalf of my elementary colleagues, we can support any plan that doesn't reduce more time from the elementary school day. So, I know that there are lots of pros and cons to all of the plans, and, if the board settles on the pre-pandemic times, that's something that we can absolutely support.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I ask Dr. Wiles, for the pre-pandemic time, I know the asterisk said that you have some ideas. Is that something that you can talk about, or you have to?
I think it's a little too early for prime time.
Sorry.
Just talked briefly about it with Mr. Piscatelli this morning, and I just wanted everyone to know that that gap of time, that 7:05 to 7:30, in my mind, really is pretty unacceptable. We have hundreds of kids here, and teachers don't report till 7:25. And then at the end of the day, between 2:23 and 2:45, it's also a very dangerous time. If we were to look at when discipline referrals happen, it's then. Worse in the afternoon and the morning because sleepiness has been our friend in that respect. But we've got to think through how to make that less bad, because it really is a problem. And I think these 4 years of talking about something different have taken the spotlight off of how horrible that time is. And so we're going to need to be thinking through some things. And I will work with the high school team to talk about that and see what's possible. Maybe we can, make some lemons out of lemonade here. But I just want to underscore that really was a horrible time. We don't have any of our assistant principals here. But that's a real heavy lift for them because there's just not enough bodies in the building to supervise all those hundreds of children getting off the bus. And I know there was some ideas about hiring monitors. It's like hiring bus drivers to hire monitors. They're also very difficult to hire and retain. But I thought I would give you the asterisk of hope.
We're people of hope.
Any other questions or comments? So because Blanca's back, I guess we can go ahead and vote on it now, if you're okay with that, Dr. Wells, unless you want to leave it later. Agenda, okay. Sorry, let me just move this down. So I think someone needs to make a motion or resolution for one of the start times that they select, and then we can vote to discuss on that, and then vote to approve it or not. And if we need to have another resolution, then we can do that as well. So, Gloria?
I would like to move that we return to the pre-pandemic schedule with the high school's first, elementary, second, middle, last.
Is there a second? Nate? Okay, so any other questions or comments about this plan before we vote on this one? Okay, so we're voting then on the pre-pandemic start time. So there's two motions to approve this, so all in favor? Okay, so it passes 8. Did you say no, Barb? Okay, you're against it. Sorry. So it passes 8-1. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for all the input. And I know I've been contemplating. I know I'm not the only one. So thanks, everybody, for your feedback. All right, so we can move back up to the top of the agenda and go on to consent items. This includes the minutes of the May 3rd meeting, the CSC and CPSE recommendations, and personnel action and financials. Can I have a motion to approve the consent items? Barb, second Judy. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 9-0. Next, we have information items, curriculum and instruction. Dr. Wiles?
Yes, our first item is the 2022 22nd Annual Congressional Art Competition Award winners. And so I want to congratulate Guilderland High School students who participated in the 22nd Annual Congressional Art Competition. The reception was held at the Art Center at the Capital Region. The annual art competition is a unique venue to demonstrate the artistic ability, curiosity, and imagination of high school students in our region. And the students are Catherine Kryzak, grade 12, and she is in Mr. Green's class. Savannah Jiang, grade 11, with Miss Fliss, and Renee Manzella, also in grade 11, with Ms. Best. And then next I am happy to announce that for the 12th time, the Guilderland Music Department has the honor of being named one of the NAMM Foundation's best communities for music education. Programs designated for this nationwide honor exemplify community commitment to include music education as a part of a quality education for all children. The Guilderland Music Department is proud of its long history of musical excellence and believes that every child deserves a comprehensive music education. Congratulations to the wonderful music students and supportive community on this well-deserved honor, and of course to the entire music staff, whose hard work, dedication, and innovation are reflected in this achievement. And I'll just keep going. My first item under superintendent information is just to recognize our tenurees and our retirees. We held a reception on May 10th, 2022, and recognized 34 retirees and 23 staff members who were recommended and received tenure. We had a small celebration in the high school auditorium where they were recognized by their building principals and supervisors. And we'd just like to offer our sincere congratulations and thank you to each and every one of them. It was a great, great night, and I want to thank Mr. Regan Johnson, our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, for working with his team to put together something that was memorable and wonderful. So thank you, Regan. Next is May 2022 bond referendum, budget vote, and Board of Education election and exit poll. So the 2022-23 budget was approved by voters last week. Voters also approved a bus proposition. We truly, truly appreciate the district's residents supporting our schools and the children that we serve. I'd like to congratulate the candidates elected to serve on the Board of Education, incumbents Kelly Person, Kim Blasiak, and Gloria Toll-Hilt, along with newcomer Katie DePiro. I'd also like to thank Neil Sanders and Linda Livingston for all of their work coordinating the vote itself, and recognize all those who played a part in the budget development and the voting process. The district also conducted an exit survey during the school budget vote on May 17th, and the purpose of the survey was to collect demographic data about who voted and why they voted the way they did. Those results will be available in a few weeks and will be posted to the district's website at that time. And our thanks to the Capital Region BOCES Communications Service and our communications specialists here in Guilderland for all of their hard work in this effort. And I can't underscore the thank you enough to our community for supporting our spending plan for the new school year. And my last information item was also the subject of public comment, and very timely given the tragic occurrences in Texas earlier today. This is a draft secure storage notification resolution, and tonight I bring before you as a discussion item a secure notification resolution. The March for Our Lives Club at Guilderland High School brought this idea to the Board of Education during public comment earlier this year. And since that time, I've met with the members of the club, and we've also created a subcommittee of the District Safety Committee to review their work. That work came to the full district-wide safety committee a few weeks ago. They reviewed the resolution and offered feedback, and so the board has before it this draft and represents the feedback from the two committees. And the hope is that after some discussion, we might be able to bring this back to the board for action in June, which happens to be Gun Safety Month.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wiles. Any questions or comments? Oh, go ahead, Rebecca.
I just had a comment, a sad comment, given the fact of what happened today. But firearms are now the leading cause of death in children in America. They surpass motor vehicle accidents. They surpass cancer. This is a major public health problem. And, you know, America has successfully reduced the number of motor vehicle deaths in the last 20 years because of public health measures. One public health measure is educational interventions out to the community. This is very similar to that. It's an educational intervention out to the community that can hopefully help mitigate some of these tragedies that we're seeing. And it's compatible with recommendations from professional organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics. So I fully support it.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I fully support it too. I'm glad for the students that brought it to our attention. And I think it's unfortunate, ironic, and timely that it was brought to our attention. It was on the agenda today, just happened to be. But I think, like Dr. Weil said, we'll vote on this next time, and it's, I think it's, if it passes, I think it would be great that it passes at the start, or in June is recognized as Gun Safety Month. So hopefully everybody can consider this and vote on this next month. Kelly, did you have a comment?
I do.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Wanda.
Yep, no, it came to the Safety Committee first, the Safety and Security Committee, and the committee supported it. There were no ifs, ands, or buts about supporting it, which was great.
Great, thanks, everybody. Next is board president information. One item here is the Board of Education meeting dates. This is a draft calendar for next year, and so we can vote on this next time. So if anybody notices anything that stands out, you can bring that up before we vote on that. Next, we have action items. School business, I'll turn this over to Neil.
Thank you very much. First item this evening is the resolution to approve the declaration showing tabulation of votes cast at the annual budget vote and election on May 17, 2020, and declare the results of the ballot. And before you vote, I'll just remind the community what the outcome was. So for the budget, yes votes 3,222, no votes 1,487. For the bus purchase, yes votes 3,327, no votes 1,340. In terms of Board of Education candidates, Kelly Person received 3,031 votes, Gloria Toll-Hilt received 3,000 votes, Katie DePiro received 2,934 votes, Kim Blasiak received 2,897 votes, Barbara Federico received 1,276 votes, Mark Reamer received 1,144 votes, April McAllister received 1,048 votes, Nicole Coonrod received 1,036 votes, Jennifer Romano received 991 votes, and William Kearney received 552 votes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I have a motion to accept the resolution and declaration showing the tabulation of votes? Blanca, second. Kelly. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to approve the authorization for the purchase of various school buses, vehicles, and equipment. And this is a roll call vote.
So first, can I have a resolution to approve the bond resolution for the purchase of school buses? Nate. Second, Judy. Any questions or comments? Linda, are you going to call us? Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Blasiak?
Yes.
Dr. Butterfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Federico?
Yes.
Mrs. Gonzalez-Parker?
Yes.
Mrs. Person?
Yes.
Dr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabron?
Yes.
Mrs. Slack?
Yes.
And Mrs. Toler?
Yes.
Okay, so it passes 9-0.
Next is a consulting agreement with Needham Risk Management Resource Group, LLC, to provide consultant services in connection with health, safety, and risk management services effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
Can I have a motion to approve the agreement with Needham Risk Management? Blanca, second. Nate. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to accept the annual risk assessment and special area internal audit reports on Title IX athletics equity prepared by Questar 3 BOCES, and to approve the corresponding corrective action plans as recommended by the audit committee.
Can I have a motion to approve the audit reports and the action plans, corrective action plans? Kelly. Second, Rebecca. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to approve the intermunicipal agreement with Questar 3 BOCES to provide internal auditing services for the 2022-23 school year, as recommended by the audit committee.
Can I have a motion to approve the agreement for auditing? Judy, second. Kelly. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Next is the resolution to approve agreements for the Center for Disability Services, Langland School, and Learnwell, and authorize the superintendent of schools to execute the agreements.
Can I have a motion to approve these service agreements? Rebecca, second Kelly. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to approve the agreement with SMG, manager of MVP Arena, for use of the facility for the high school graduation ceremony, and authorizing the superintendent of schools to execute the agreement pending attorney review.
Can I have a motion to approve the agreement with SMG? Kim, second Gloria. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to approve the following vendors to provide universal pre-K services for the 2022-23 school year, subject to final contract agreement and approval. The providers are All Saints Catholic Academy, Christ the King Early Childhood Center, Kids Corner Child Care and Learning Center, and St. Madeleine Sophie School.
Can I have a motion to approve the universal pre-K program bids? Gloria? Second, Rebecca. Any questions or comments?
We're going to have the opportunity to view the admission process and things like that before we eventually approve these folks, just because I had concerns from last year's process for getting in. I assume it's resolved now.
It is resolved.
Okay.
Last year, I remember your concern was about grandfathering. There is no longer any grandfathering. All spots will be through a lottery.
Okay, that was my concern. So as long as they agree to those terms, or we agree to.
Yes, those terms will be in the contract. Plus, that's what we have to submit to the State Education Department. That was a one-year waiver.
Okay, oh, got
So
it.
we're
I
good.
remember that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I just want to confirm, too, there's no, like, religious aspect to what's going to be taught.
There is not within the pre-K day, but children who are enrolled in the program before the start of the school day or after, religious education and activities can happen on those wraparound hours.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to approve the award for the purchase and installation of convection ovens to Singer MA LLC, the low bidder, meeting specifications.
Can I have a motion to approve the convection oven bid? Judy, second. Barb? Any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to award the field construction work contract for Phase 1 of the 2021 capital construction voter authorization to Field Turf USA Incorporated in the amount of $2,639,902.09, utilizing National Purchasing Cooperative KPN contract number 201-801-01.
Can I have a motion to approve the turf field construction contract? Barb, second. Blanca? Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to approve budgetary transfers as noted, totaling $142,249.
Can I have a motion to approve the general fund transfer? Judy, second. Kelly? Any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
And finally, we have a donation. The donation was for 30 cases of hand sanitizer and 75 cases of surface wipes from Price Right Supermarkets.
Can I have a motion to approve the donation of the hand sanitizer and surface wipes? Judy, second. Nate, any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0, and thank you to Price Right. And You're all set, right, Neil?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we can move on to Superintendent Action. Dr. Wiles?
I now have one item for the board's consideration tonight. This is the resolution to approve the contract between the Guilderland Administrators Association and the district for a period of July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2026.
Can I have a motion to approve the contract ratification with the Guilderland Administrator Association? Judy, second Gloria. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0. Thank you, Dr. Wiles. I think we can move the board president action, or we can jump down to that. It's at the end. But since that's also to vote on,
I think it just got moved out of the wrong
oh, okay.
spots.
That's okay. So we'll go to board president action. I have one item here. This is the proposal to engage with Progression Partners. This was up for action last time, and we talked about the equity audit and the grant funds that are available to for this. Can I have a motion to approve the proposal with Progression Partners? Gloria, second. Kelly, any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0. Sorry, I can't see everybody. Thank you. Oh, one opposed. Sorry. So passes 8-0.
8-1.
8-1, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so that's the only item under board president action. And so we'll go to board committee reports and start with policy.
We did have a meeting. We began working on a inspired DEI policy, and we have 2 more meetings scheduled over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Barb. Next, communications.
We are meeting on the 8th at 4:30,
Which is a change.
which has changed from what we had set at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next, business practices.
We have not met and so far do not have anything that we will be meeting on.
Okay. And audit?
We had a meeting, and I remember it going very late, and I had to leave within
Yes.
an hour. We were going over
The corrective action
corrective
plan.
action plan. I remember leaving. Is there anything that you recall that was anything other than going over this?
No, we can go back to the minutes and make sure they're posted, but I think the majority of the meeting was the corrective action plan and questions about that.
Yeah, it was a good meeting. We don't have another one planned.
And the
Stephen, can I ask a question?
Oh, go ahead, Barb.
They did an audit on athletics.
Yep.
Has that been produced yet, or?
Yeah, that's on here. We just, so the corrective action plan and the report were together. I think it's item,
Oh, okay.
gosh, one second. Let's see, it is under letter D, under under Neil's business. You can see there's the attachment for the assessment report and the action plan, the special area audit and corrective action plan under there. Do you see that?
Thank you.
Yep. And then DEI.
We just pretty much wrapped things up, just at least the last time. I mean, we didn't have a specific topic. We just talked about things that we wanted to maybe go back and talk about, things that really affected us in any way. It was actually really good to just hear how everyone was there's certain topics that we discussed throughout the year that they really liked or that affected them in a way. I keep saying affected in a way, but yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kim. So that's it for board committee reports, and then we'll move on to public comment number 2. Linda, is there any public comment? Okay, thank you. And then next, board issues, ideas, and sharing. Kelly?
Is there a way to talk about doing the community closet idea this evening? Or is that something that's supposed to be discussed more and then put it on the agenda for next week?
Or for the next meeting?
I don't know if that's something we can add to now and just get it over with. Doesn't seem like any minuses to it unless there's space issues that Marie wants to discuss or work out?
I think we need to do some homework. We also have a 24-hour requirement for new resolutions on the board, so which is relatively new. So I think we'll talk and get things organized, and then we'll have a resolution for the board at the next time.
Is there anything that anybody wants, is there anybody, can we like discuss now, or is there any issues or things?
You mean like questions?
Yeah, like questions or things maybe want to work out, and then be able to have it on the next board meeting as a resolution that we don't have to discuss, or just as a thought. I'll let her hear if there's any thoughts or any questions.
I'll ask a question. The bins that are going to be stored at the elementary schools and Farnsworth, where would they be kept?
So in some of the discussion, the most direct line of contact is usually the school nurse or the social worker. So that would be if a teacher came to them and said, we have a student with an issue, or a family has reached out, they're the first line of defense. I would deliver it to the principal, who then would disseminate it to either or in that respect. So that's who would be dealing with it at the elementary school. It's an 18-gallon roughneck Rubbermaid tote, so very standardized size. So I try to keep it so it's all encompassed. So if somebody runs through something faster, just let me know. I'll get it right back to the front of the school, let the principal know. I've dropped off your donation, here you go, and keep moving it through. The idea is to have this continually filled with the same items. Some schools may utilize it faster than others, and with that, that's why we want somebody who's handing it out to track that inventory, just to say we need 5 more because we gave out, 5 out of our dozen that you gave us. We want to make sure that each school has what they need, and if some item is not moving as quickly as others, we'd like to cycle out and see what we can do. We realize elementary school needs are different. Elementary school principals right now, we're all going through the 5th grade personal hygiene talks, and it's almost that perfect timing. We kind of wanted to give it some time to see what we could do for the elementary schools as far as supplying things, because it's much different at the high school. We just dropped off at the beginning of May a $525 donation to initially stock the closet. And since then, I've been sitting here getting text messages, emails, Facebook posts, or Facebook messages about how can I help you? I want to help you. So the community response is insane. I have 2 spare bedrooms right now filled to the brim with actual tangible donations. So I'm trying to field now monetary instead, because we want to be all-inclusive with products that we are providing at every school. So the monetary allows us to purchase that. So trying to keep it as simple as possible.
So if we have other questions, Amanda, you said that we can email you.
Yep, email me right at thecaringclosetgilderland@gmail.com. Again, it's the same idea as what was approved in February, just a much smaller scale, being very cognizant of the needs that are in that school. So each tote may be a little different based on the needs that are prevalent in that school. And so to keep it so simple where the school nurse or the social worker knows what's going on makes it easy for us, because we can say, here you go, here's your list of stuff. And if they want to tweak it, they can tweak it. It's kind of like a free shop. Come, tell me what you need, and I will get it to you.
Great, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Rebecca. I'm sorry.
I just had a comment. I think it's a great project. In my work life, I see kids that have been typically maltreated in some way, and we usually give them a tote that's very similar to what you're describing, with like a clean pair of clothes, some toiletries, and it's always amazing to me that the kids mention the tote much more and much longer after this event, because I think it brings a little bit of humanity and dignity to a time that doesn't have a lot of that.
Right, and that's exactly what our mission is, to give these children this dignity and confidence to come forward. We may have some of the brightest children sitting in our classroom, but they don't have the confidence to stand up and speak because they don't want to draw attention to their personal hygiene. That is unacceptable to me. It sets me on fire, because there are children that could really be community leaders but don't want to put themselves out there, and you can't blame them. I've talked with many different people around town. I've heard some horror stories that make you, just would break your heart, make you so sad. So I talked with Dr. Beanie at was she at Gilpin? No, she's not Gilpin. Westminster. And she had the idea that she did years ago with personalized boxes, like little plastic pencil boxes that would have more travel size. Because I was able to connect with somebody at a food pantry out of town that gets inundated with travel size shampoos, conditioners, toothpaste, flosses. We would supply within that little pencil box the hygiene needs for children that sometimes come to school to practice their hygiene needs. We don't want any child to feel that they have to go without, or if it's not being practiced at home, we want to help. No shame, no judgment. Let's just help our children at all levels. So it's something that I'm just very passionate about, and thought it would fall under the umbrella in February, but now seeing again, it's much simpler for the elementary school. And another thing we're looking to do as we continue to grow is provide a scholarship for a high school age student, for a senior that is looking to go into the field of health and human services. Because if we can teach our students now, be kind to others in school, if you see somebody struggling, let them know, in the high school or the middle school, that this is accessible to them. No shame, but try to encourage each other, because hygiene is something kids get picked on a lot, and there's just no need for it. If I can remove that obstacle of adversity and help one child push forward with the confidence to get up and speak and really shine, then I'm gonna do it. And I know I'm a bull in a china shop, but I'm just very passionate about this. So just any consideration to move it forward, because I'd like to get some of this stuff out of my house. It'd be fantastic.
Great, so so it sounds like the district will do some homework and go into logistics with Amanda, and we can see the resolution hopefully for the next board meeting.
Okay, so that's when,
I think it's June
14th.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
June 14th.
so in the process, would it be acceptable for me to start asking the principals, hey, do you have any suggestion to what to put into that tote for that specific school, just so I could start the idea of preparing something? Because what I don't want to do is have that lag time, because otherwise I'll just have to start to the fall, and that'll be a lot of project. I have people wanting to do donation drives, and storage is going to eventually become an issue. So I want to see if I could start reaching out so that once it's approved on the 14th, I could hit the ground running, and that gives us maybe 2 weeks to kind of see how the children are going to, or families are going to utilize it.
What's that, Kelly? June 25th, something like that.
Yeah, so that's kind of the only thing that I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't work at the district, but I think, if we put this, it sounds like in terms of prioritizing, putting it just the resolution on the June meeting, and then we can see the details and vote on it, that would probably be, I think we need to look at something first. But Dr. Wiles, it sounds like you will.
Well, I think we want to
homework
coordinate with our elementary principals right now, who are it's the end of the year, so
No,
it is
absolutely.
very intense. So I don't want to promise that it's anything I can't deliver. So I'll reach out to our 5 elementary principals in the morning
And the middle school too. It's so that
Okay,
it'll
so
service
it's-
all 7 schools within the district.
Okay, so I'll reach out to the group and see logistically what makes sense in terms of your being able to gather information, because that's what it sounds like you want to do
Well,
first.
or otherwise I could just go very standard. I'm just trying to make it the most efficient process to get it into the school's hands as quickly as possible.
I would say standard is probably the easier thing to do right
For now,
now, because
yep.
no one's going to have a ton of time to be too fine-tuned in terms of the material.
No,
So
I agree. Like I said, I had been in contact with Neil before, about 2 weeks ago or so, and just said, I'm going to come and speak just because I want to expand and just to have a test run of how it was going to get utilized. So in the fall, it'll be smooth sailing, because we want to keep this continual.
right.
So,
I think standard is probably easiest for everybody right now.
right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of board, I don't know if issues, ideas, or sharing, but one of the things is, I know someone spoke maybe it was a few months ago about, or we had a public comment about the girls wrestling team, and I didn't know if that's something that was followed up with Dave Austin, and if not, if we could pursue that to look into what it would take to start that. I know that there's a ton of high schools that have girls wrestling teams, and since we just talked about the Title IX equity audit, I thought it would be good to follow up on that.
I honestly have not done it.
Oh, I know that there was the election and vote, so maybe that's something we could ask Dave about.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And then the second thing I had was the I know Mr. P left, but the anti-hate rally is this Thursday at 3:30 to 6:30. Wear blue, I was just told. That means unity, so if you go, try to wear blue. Thank you to the high schoolers who gave, some of us are wearing these pins that I think that they're handing out at the anti-hate rally, and so I'll be there. It looks like the weather is going to be a lot better. Last year was like really, really hot and humid, and I just am thankful too that the middle school, there's buses available to take students from the middle school who are interested and have a permission slip and can go. So thank you for that opportunity for them.
Can you, Marie, maybe put a reminder, just, tomorrow about that? So it'll be on our emails and we can make sure to remember. Thank you.
I wanted to add, I'm really excited that the middle school students can go. My children wanted to attend. We'll be in Florida, unfortunately, but I'm really excited about the events and that we afforded that opportunity to the middle schoolers.
It's the last day before
Yep.
Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, Friday, there's no school, right?
Yeah.
So any other board issues, ideas, and sharing? Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn. Kelly, second. Rebecca, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes 9-0. Thank you, everybody.